kirawasadiver. That's my channel name. That's what I am on this platform. Today I'm going to do the challenge of create your channel name out of albums. Except I'm doing a little twist on it and I'm including some CDs and some books as well. Because my channel is not just about vinyl, it's just music in general and reading as well. So I'm gonna create a list that is a representation of who I am as a person and what my channel is as well, and the journey that I am on with this channel. Quickly, thanks to Richard McCook for starting this thread and to Spins and Needles for doing this thread recently and reminding me that I should do it. Now, let's get on to the list. So, kirawasadiver starts with a K. For K, I'm going with, I have a list already, but I can't figure out which one it was. What is the K again? Oh, for K, we're going with a vinyl that represents the start of my vinyl journey and what got me into record collecting in the first place. And that obviously has to be a record that I inherited from my auntie. I'm choosing for this one, Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me by The Cure. The Cure is a band that I've been into for a long time, since my teenage years. One of the first bands that I got into hardcore. I have my mum and I have my aunties. I have family members that love The Cure, therefore I love The Cure. There's a lot of sentimentality with this band, and also I just needed to include a record that I got from my auntie, because when I inherited 80 or so vinyl from my auntie, that's what really started my love for collecting records. When I saw the love that she had poured into her collection, and I was like, and she told me, Kira, I'm gonna give you all my records that I got growing up, and the one thing you can't do, the one condition is you can't sell them. You have to keep them. I'm like, well, if I have to keep them, I might as well continue the collection and keep it growing and pass it on to someone once I'm old as well. So that's what started my whole entire love for this whole thing right now on this channel. Let's go on to I. For I, I'm going with, I don't even know what I'm going with. Oh yeah, I have to go with a record that represents me as a person, and also a record that turns up on nearly every single video on this channel, and that is In Rainbows by Radiohead. It had to be included. This is my favorite album ever. I just made a video that was my top 10 Radiohead songs of all time, and I gushed about this album pretty much non-stop, especially in the second half of that video. This album means so much to me. I grew up with this album. This is one of the first albums that I loved in my whole entire life, when I sort of discovered my love for it around 13, 14, and since then it's just never left the deep depths of my heart. It's going to forever be there. So I love Radiohead, one of my top 2 bands of all time. So this definitely represents me and my music taste at large. Next in kirawasadiver we have an R. For an R, we're going to go with, trying to remember what I went with. I'm going with Remain in the Light on this one. This is one of the first albums that I bought with my own money, honestly. It's still not in and out of sleeve, which once again represents my channel and the lack of organization that sometimes shines through, but it's fine. We're dealing with it. One of the albums that I first started my own little collection with, to build on top of my records that I inherited from my auntie. With A, I have to go with my favorite book of 2020 that I read in 2020. It's very funny because it actually has the word Kira in the title, and this is the letter A from the word Kira in my channel title. It is Akira by Katsuhiro Otomo. This definitely represents, once again, my taste in reading. I love manga, I love graphic novels, I love all this type of stuff. I also love really dark, twisted sort of plots and really grey characters, some anti-heroes that you can really root for. This has all of that. This is also a cult classic, and I love some cult classics in my life. They're the best thing ever. And the other reason I really love this is because my dad loves the anime, and anime is also one of my favorite things in my life, and he always owned the anime. So I grew up seeing Akira the anime on my dad's shelf growing up, and I was like, that looks interesting, what is that? And then eventually, at the age of 23, yes YouTube, I'm 23, stop turning off the comments in my videos, I'm not 14. I finally picked up the manga to read because I love to read the book before I watch the movie. That's what I am, that's what I do. And I absolutely loved this. I'm so excited to read the next 5 in this series and then finally watch the anime. It's gonna be a blast. And that finishes off the Kira. Let's move on to Was with W. For W, I'm going to go with a book that really summarizes up my taste in reading, and that would be We. And the other reason why this really summarizes up my channel is that it's a book where I can't pronounce the author's name, and we love some of those on this channel. I can never pronounce authors' names. I have to look at this while I say it. It's Yevgeny Zamyatin. Oh. This is a dystopian classic that has inspired so many of my favorite books that I grew up loving. In my teen years, when I really got into reading classics, my favorite to read were dystopians. I love dystopians, and I read the likes of Clockwork Orange in 1984 and Fahrenheit 451, Brave New World, all that stuff, Handmaid's Tale, and this is actually the father of them all. This is what started it all and inspired all of the dystopian genre. And this book I haven't actually read yet. This is a book that I'm looking to read soon. And like this channel, I'm always on a journey. I haven't read everything, I haven't listened to everything, I don't know anything about anything really. I'm just someone that's very passionate about physical media. I'm just passionate about reading as much as I can read and listening to as much as I can listen to over the course of my life, and it's always a journey with me. I'm never going to be the destination. I always see myself as someone that wants to improve and find more stuff and keep looking for more recommendations and broaden my knowledge on physical media. So I wanted to include this because this is a book that I actually haven't read, and also just represents that I never can read everything, and there's always something next on my list to get to that I'm really, really excited about. This also is my dad's copy, which also really represents me because I love to steal my dad's books to read because he has a very similar taste to me in both music and books, and he owns a lot of dystopian that I love to steal from him and read. So that's one of these. Next, we have another A. For A, we're going to go with my other favorite band of all time, Interpol. This is Antics. I love to give some love to Turn on the Bright Lights, which is their debut album. However, I don't give as much love to this album, which is their follow-up from their debut, and I think is nearly just as good. I think that this is also top tier Interpol. There's so many songs off this album that I discovered when I was younger and I loved to cry to in my teenage years. It was such a good time with me and Interpol, being moody and really upset all the time. And definitely if I was to pick a few albums, just a handful of albums that really represent me and the discovery I had for music at a younger age, this would definitely be included. It's a really good album. If you do love the first debut album by Interpol, Turn on the Bright Lights, then this is your next best bet. Next we have S. For S, we're going to go with a CD because I do have a little bit of a CD collection. They definitely don't get as much love in my videos, but I do have a video that is for my CD collection, so if you want to check that out you can. But this is Suede, self-titled. This album is one of my mum's albums, I think, if I'm not mistaken, and then she passed it on to me. So a lot of my CDs I've also inherited, and this is an album that I really want to get into. I always have new music or old music that I discover and I really feel like is going to be up my alley, and there's always something next on my list to get to, and this is one of those albums. So I wanted to include an album that I'm looking at checking out because what else do I do on my channel except mention stuff I want to check out? That's all I really do. So, and I also wanted to include a CD because love my CDs as well, grew up on CDs. CDs were where it was at in the 2000s, so gotta love it. Here we go, bring in that physical media variety. So for the last A in kirawasadiver, we're going to go with the last book on my list, which is Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. This is another classic that I read growing up. Classics are my favorite type of book. I'm just obsessed with them. There's a few reasons why I love this so much. I loved the classic animated movie growing up. I thought it was super weird, super fantastical. Then I read the book, loved the book as well, thought it was super weird. I love weird stuff. That's like where it is at with my taste. And also the remake with like the live action movie, I think Tim Burton is involved with that, and you're gonna see some more Tim Burton love on this list quite soon, but I love Tim Burton. He's one of my favorite directors and producers of all time. So this book, it was just one of those books that sparked my appreciation for literature while I was younger, and will always be a 5 out of 5 for me. And then we have Diver. For Diver, we're going to start off with the D. which would be my love for electronica music. So we've got Daft Punk Discovery. This is one of my favorite albums of all time. And I talked about this album enough where you don't need to hear anything more from me. But I did want to mention that I really do love electronic music. It's something that I feel like, once again, rock is a huge thing on this channel. I bring up a lot of alternative rock that I love, but I don't mention enough electronica music. And I don't think I own enough electronica music. There are genres out there that I love, like absolutely love what I've heard from that genre, but I just don't give myself enough time to like go and actually properly jump into them. So I wanted to include a genre that fits that category, which is electronica music. And you can say the same thing for funk or jazz or disco, metal music now. Like pretty much there's so many genres out there that I actually quite love what I hear. I just gotta dive in a bit more. So in the future, I wanna see myself buying a few more records that are from different genres other than alternative rock. I'm just thinking right now, like I bought records that are coming in the mail and like, are all of them alternative rock? I don't think so. That's not. Wait, that sort of is. And I've got some record hauls coming up where I feel like I'm gonna be showing off a few different things, trying to branch out a bit more, so look out for that. Next we have For I, I'm going with Illmatic by Nas. I love hip hop. I love rap. I'm so here for this. Like, this is one of my favorite genres of all time. And I, once again, don't mention it enough on my channel because I don't own enough of it. But this is one of my favorite rap albums of all time. It is a classic in the hip hop genre, of course. And I would say after rock music, rap is actually probably my second favorite genre. And a close third would be electronica. That's pretty much my holy trinity right there. Next, we go on to V. With this, we're going Villains by Quatsa, or Queens of the Stone Age. One of my dad's favorite bands, so I grew up listening to these guys. I saw them live in San Francisco a few years ago. One of my favorite live acts that I've ever seen. And the reason I like Queens of the Stone Age so much is that there's quite a few rock bands that are in like the top caliber for me that don't bring out as many good albums anymore. Like I feel like they peter off towards the end of their careers. But Queens of the Stone Age, every single new album they bring out, I absolutely love. Like I love every single album they bring out. It's just what I need to hear is what Queens of the Stone Age keeps bringing out. So I absolutely love them, and I wanted to mention them because it is one of the bands that I have seen live. I was a really broke student for quite a long time in my life, and I only recently just started working full time. So I really just started to get that mullah in the last 6 months or so, which funnily enough is when the lockdown began in Australia. So I haven't been able to go see any more live acts. One of my favorite things about working full time was going to be that I could finally go and see as much live music as I wanted, and suddenly I can't do any of it because everything's shut down. So a little annoying, but trying to appreciate the bands that I have seen live because I do love live music. I just never had enough money for it. That's something I want to improve upon in the future once everything starts opening up again in Australia, is going and seeing more live music and incorporating that a bit more into my channel, because live music is where it's at. It's some of the best music that I've heard in my whole entire life. So loved these guys when I saw them live, and hoping to see some more live acts in the future, hopefully sooner rather than later. So for E, we're going to go with a movie, and of course it's going to be Tim Burton's Edward Scissorhands. Ooh, okay, so I love Tim Burton. There's definitely some Tim Burton films or some produced Tim Burton movies that I don't think are that great, but there's so many good gems in the mix, and this is one of them. This movie is so special to me. It's so precious. It just summarizes everything that I love about film. There's so much to unpack with this movie. It's sort of like the Truman Show, where there's a lot of analysis to be done with the set design and the costumes and just the way that the film is directed and written. That's what I love the most about movies, is analyzing them and figuring out what does everything mean below the surface. And this movie has so much of that. And also I love it because of the spooky elements as well, and just sort of like the wacky world that Tim Burton creates in this movie is a theme that I love throughout all movies, like Coraline or Nine, Mary and Max, just those types of movies. They're some of my favorites. So I feel like I had to mention a movie here in this list because movies are something that I want to talk about a bit more on this channel as well. So look out for that a bit more, hopefully. And the last one to end it off with the R is going to be an album that I don't own yet, because I want to include an album that I don't own because that's something that's really important to me. me is I want to continue to grow my collection, and I'm always looking for the next thing to buy, the next record that I want to own, and that would be a beautiful copy of Ready to Die by the Notorious B.I.G. It would just be so amazing to own this record and own like a deluxe version or anniversary version of this record or whatever it may be. I've seen a lot of expensive versions of this record, so we'll see what I end up with eventually, but for now I'm still looking out. But yeah, I wanted to include a record that I've just had my eye on and I'm looking at buying soon, because it's always something new that I want to buy and something that I want to bring into my collection and show to you guys. And Ready to Die is one of those records because that album, I love Notorious B.I.G. He was my favorite rapper growing up. He still is my favorite rapper. It was actually the first rapper that I ever really got into. I was around like 15, 16 years old. I think I bought his CD actually. Let me find his CD. I bought this CD when I was like in my mid-teens. It's the Greatest Hits by Notorious B.I.G. Fell in love with every single song that's on this. The 10 Crack Commandments is one of the best songs I've ever heard. Warning is my favorite hip-hop song of all time. You've got Who Shot Ya, you've got Hypnotized, you've got One More Chance, you've got Juicy. There's so many classics on this. Of course, it's his greatest hits and he's one of the best rappers to ever live. So from here, I went and listened to Ready to Die, and I now love Ready to Die. It's such a good album, and it's just one that I really want to own in the future. So I wanted to finish off with a record that I love but I don't own yet, because there's so many out there that I love but I don't own yet, as I only have a collection of about 110, 120 now, I think. So there's always room to grow, and I'm always super excited to grow. It's one of my favorite things about collecting is the growth and the journey, and that there's always something new to go and buy. There's like infinite amount of music out there to love. With that, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this collection of random physical media that summarizes up my taste and my loves and my journey and my channel, and I'll see you again in my next video. Bye.